Dr. Marcus Carter was a brilliant surgeon, known not just for his skill, but for his calm, composed nature in the most high-pressure situations. At 38, he was at the peak of his career, working at St. Mary's Hospital, a renowned medical center in Chicago. Marcus had always been a man of deep integrity, driven by his passion for saving lives. Despite his success, he had faced challenges, especially as a black man in a field dominated by racial and social prejudices. But Marcus never let it deter him. He believed in actions, not arguments. He let his work speak louder than words. Marcus had a family of his own, a wife, Serena, and a 6-year-old son, Noah. They were his world. His love for his family was as strong as his commitment to medicine. On most days, after long shifts, he would come home and read bedtime stories to Noah, who wanted to be just like Dad when he grew up. One Thursday evening, Marcus received an urgent call from the hospital. A young girl, barely 10 years old, had been brought in after a car accident. Her condition was critical, and she needed immediate surgery to save her life. Marcus didn't think twice. He grabbed his car keys and left, knowing every second counted. Marcus sped through the dark streets, his heart racing. He knew that timing was everything in situations like these. He had already called ahead to the hospital to prepare the operating room. The image of the young girl, her life hanging by a thread, kept flashing in his mind. He wasn't just a surgeon. He was a father. He couldn't help but think, what if this were Noah? As he turned onto a quiet suburban street to take a shortcut, the unmistakable sound of sirens filled the air. Red and blue lights flashed behind him. Marcus frowned but pulled over immediately. He checked the clock. He couldn't afford this delay. He rolled down the window as 2 officers approached his car. "License and registration," one of them, Officer Reynolds, said curtly. The other, Officer Mitchell, stood behind him, hand resting on his holstered weapon. Marcus reached for his wallet, trying to stay calm. "Officers, I'm Dr. Marcus Carter. I'm a surgeon, and I'm on my way to the hospital. There's a child who needs surgery right now." Reynolds narrowed his eyes. "You were speeding, and you ran a stop sign back there. Step out of the vehicle." "Please," Marcus said, his voice steady but urgent. "I understand, but this is a life-or-death situation. Check my ID. Call the hospital. I don't have time." "Step out of the car," Reynolds repeated, this time more firmly. Marcus hesitated, but complied. He could feel the tension in the air. He knew arguing wouldn't help. As he stepped out, Mitchell moved closer. "Hands on the car," Mitchell ordered. Marcus looked at them, bewildered. "Officers, I'm not a criminal. I'm trying to save a life." Reynolds didn't respond. Instead, he grabbed Marcus's arm and cuffed him. Marcus felt a wave of frustration and fear, not for himself but for the child waiting for him at the hospital. He tried again. "Please, I'm begging you, call the hospital. A little girl's life depends on this." Mitchell shook his head. "You're resisting." "I'm not resisting," Marcus said, his voice rising. "You're making a mistake." At the hospital, the situation was becoming dire. The young girl, Lily Anderson, had lost a lot of blood. Her father, Officer Mitchell, was on duty and unaware that his own child was the one Marcus was rushing to save. His wife, Karen, was pacing the waiting room, her face pale with worry. Back on the street, Marcus was being placed in the back of the police car. He tried to think of every possible way to convince the officers, but they weren't listening. As Reynolds prepared to drive away, Mitchell's radio crackled. "Unit 7, we need you at St. Mary's Hospital immediately. It's your daughter. She's in critical condition." Mitchell froze. "What did you say?" "It's Lily. There's been an accident. They're waiting for Dr. Carter, but he hasn't arrived yet." Mitchell turned to Marcus, his face pale. "What did you say your name was?" "Dr. Marcus Carter," Marcus replied, his voice tight with suppressed anger and urgency. Mitchell's heart sank. He opened the back door and helped Marcus out, fumbling with the handcuffs. "I didn't know." Marcus didn't waste time. "Let me go. Now." Without another word, the officers escorted Marcus back to his car. Mitchell didn't get in his patrol car. Instead, he jumped into the passenger seat of Marcus's car, saying, "I'll make sure you get there fast." When they arrived at the hospital, Marcus ran into the operating room without looking back. Mitchell stayed in the waiting room, his mind racing. The guilt of what he had done weighed heavily on him. He had delayed the man who might save his daughter's life. Inside the operating room, Marcus focused all his energy on the surgery. Lily's injuries were severe, but he worked with precision and determination. Hours passed. Outside, Karen sat with her head in her hands while Mitchell stood by the window, unable to look at his wife. Finally, Marcus emerged, his scrub stained with blood but his expression calm. He walked up to Mitchell and Karen. "She's stable. She's going to be okay." Karen broke down in tears, thanking him over and over. Mitchell, on the other hand, struggled to meet Marcus's eyes. "Dr. Carter," he began, his voice shaking. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know." Marcus looked at him, exhaustion evident in his face. "You didn't listen," he said quietly. "But I didn't do this for you. I did it for her." Mitchell nodded, his eyes wet with unshed tears. "Thank you," he whispered. In the days that followed, Mitchell couldn't shake the events of that night. He visited Marcus at the hospital to apologize again. This time, he brought his wife and daughter, who wanted to thank the man who had saved her life. Marcus accepted the apology, but he didn't sugarcoat the truth. "This happens all the time," he said. "People judge by the color of someone's skin instead of listening to what they have to say. If you want to make it right, start there." Mitchell took those words to heart. Over time, he became an advocate for change within his department, speaking out against the biases that nearly cost his daughter her life. As for Marcus, he continued his work, knowing that his actions had not only saved a life, but had also sparked a small but meaningful change. The story of Dr. Marcus Carter and Lily Anderson became a reminder to everyone who heard it of the importance of empathy, the cost of prejudice, and the power of second chances. That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.